Well, it's officially list season for college basketball, which just gives us all something to debate about until the actual games start. And I'm sure Razorback fans are going to feel great about everything that's been coming out lately.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the pod at the Palace edition. I am Curtis Wilkerson here with you today. And like I said, it's list season. We're just trying to make the days go by until the college basketball season starts. I know a lot of fan bases feel this way, but especially the Arkansas Razorbacks fan base, looking forward to the start of the John Calipari era. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited, but we're still just kind of waiting for this thing to get rolling. Official practices start next week. But in the meantime, it's talking season, it's list season. So we're seeing all of these random rankings starting to come out, from different outlets, top 5 this, top 10 that. But it gives you something to argue about with opposing fan bases. It's fun. It means absolutely nothing other than this is what a particular outlet or a particular national media member thinks about your team, your players. And what we'll find out a little bit later, your fan base, which some of those things I found pretty interesting. But I did want to dive into some of these and just see what people think. Do we agree? Do we disagree? I'm going to guess that most Razorback fans are going to think, hey, where's my guy? Whoa, my guy's a little bit too low. But we'll see. And let's start with the things that the Razorbacks are included on a little bit. And some of these lists have been coming out. I saw this morning, John Rothstein put out his preseason All-American list. He had a first team, second team, and third team. No Razorbacks on that one, but in his honorable mention, he had Nelly Davis as one of the first guys listed there. So you're talking about a top 10-ish guard in the country, according to him. So that's pretty high accolades, and I think that's about right. I mean, I look at Nelly Davis, and I think about, one of the top 20 players in the country when I look at him, and that's about what you get. So I tend to agree with that. Now, what's interesting is the list that I'm going to be referring to a lot have come from March Madness men's basketball on Twitter, and that's Andy Katz. Everybody knows Andy Katz, and he's kind of been going through putting out his position rankings over the course of the last week or two, and it's been a little bit interesting. Since we're talking about Nelly Davis, let's start with the wings, because what he wound up doing was listing 16 different wings. That's a interesting number, I guess, to go with there. But 16 different wings that he went with throughout the course of the entire country. And John L. Davis did make that list. He was in at number 7. Now, an argument could be made, and it has been made. There's been a lot of debate, actually, with me and others on Twitter as to whether or not Nelly Davis actually fits the profile of a wing. I don't know. Like, I just find it interesting to include him, a 6'3", 6'4", ball dominant, I think, guard, or a guy who at least has the ball in his hands a ton, to the same position as some of these names here, like Alex Caravan at UConn, or Cooper Flagg at Duke, Liam McNeely at UConn. Also, I just I don't feel like that's the same position. Personally, I categorize Nelly Davis more as a pretty true 2 guard. But whatever, it's semantics. The cool thing is, at the position that Andy Katz thinks he should play, or that he does play, he's got him at number 7 overall. And that's pretty good. I'll give you the guys who are in front of him real quick. It's Cooper Flagg at Duke, and we know he's probably the number 1 draft pick, or at least it's looking that way going into the season as a true freshman. That's high praise to be a freshman and be that high. Alex Caravan returning at UConn. Ace Bailey, a 5-star freshman at Rutgers. Dawson Garcia, he seems like he's like a 6-year wing at Minnesota. I think he started his career at North Carolina, maybe. I could be wrong about that. Liam McNeely, who Arkansas pursued in the offseason, who's at UConn now, and then Tucker DeVries, who's transferred over to West Virginia. So having Nelly Davis there at number 7, that's pretty good. In terms of SEC, he is the first guy on the list there. So that's nice. Looking at the rest of the list, are there any other familiar names here? Yeah, there are. AJ Storr at Kansas is one that we'll know a lot about in the next month or so, because Arkansas is going to face him. Jackson Robinson, who said he was keeping receipts about this. He's in at number 10. He's obviously at Kentucky now, so Razorback fans will be seeing him again. Rylan Griffin, former Alabama wing, also at Kansas. He's number 15. and then our old buddy Tremont Mark at number 16. How about that? Good for T Mark. I hope he has a nice season there with Texas. It's going to be weird seeing him a couple times outside of a Razorback uniform, even though he was only on the roster for a year there. Let's move on to the big men real quick, because this was also interesting to me. Again, top 16 big men coming from Andy Katz here. And I'm looking. Oh, there he is. Jonas Adu at number 15. Interesting. I like the idea of Jonas Adu being on this list. I do think he's one of the top 15 big men in the country. He was second team All SEC last year. It's kind of interesting, though, to see some of the names that are above him. So number one overall, it's Hunter Dickinson, which is going to be a great test for Jonas Adu in the preseason when Arkansas and Kansas play in that super scrimmage. Ryan Kalkbrenner, you guys will remember him from that Creighton game in Maui. He's back again. That makes sense. Janai Broom at Auburn, number 3 overall. I think that's fair. Some other familiar names in there, Norchad Omier, who started his career at Arkansas State. The Hogs pursued him in the transfer portal. He's at 6. Great Osabor, the $2 million man at Washington. Umar Ballo, the big fella out of Arizona, who's now at Indiana. So the more I look at it, the more I think, okay, you know what? There's some actually really, really good bigs in this country. But I was kind of surprised to see some of the other names that were ahead of Jonas Adu. Gaxel Lindborg, I like a lot out of UAB, but that's a mid-major guy. Adu was a guy who's an all-league player in the SEC. Coleman Hawkins, who I don't really consider a big by any stretch. He's a very tall guard almost. I guess he'll probably play the 4 at Kansas State, or maybe the 5. He's at number 11. Cliff Omer-Uri and Grant Nelson. It's going to be Alabama's 2 bigs. They're at 12 and 13. And then Robbie Avila, a transfer from Indiana State that's going to be at St. Louis University, all ahead of Jonas Adu. So whatever, it's cool to see him on the list. You like to see that, but I don't know, kind of thought Jonas Adu might be a little bit higher there. I bet if they run this list back at the end of the season, which was what will really matter, he probably will be just a little bit higher there. All right, folks, before we move on, I want to tell you about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Boy, it's Monday, which means I got a big to-do list for sure. Thankfully, 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work, which is my case, or a long list of do-it-yourself projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you always have a large list of projects for the home, and when you go out to get your supplies for the project, don't forget the most essential supply, which is a 5 Hour Energy shot. If you're wondering where to find it, it's right there where you check out. You're always going to find 5 Hour Energy at the register, no doubt about it. So make sure you take advantage of that. With 0 sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. And the 5 Hour Energy website, by the way, where you can also buy this stuff, it's got flavors galore. We're talking watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry, and there's more. I think there's really, truly a flavor for everyone. On the site, you've got the option to build your own 12-pack or a 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5, by the way, 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off of your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th, so take advantage now. On one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Take advantage of the deal. It's a good one. All right, back in here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the Pod at the Palace edition. We're talking, it's list season, right? We're talking about it. And we've kind of discussed, where the Razorbacks fall on some of these lists. Nelly Davis has been on a couple, Jonas Adu on a list of the best bigs. But Arkansas is kind of left off on some of these other ones that I've noticed here, particularly the guards, which kind of surprised me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So let me pull up this list real quick. And I think maybe, just maybe, part of it could be because of the way they categorize Nelly Davis, right? If he would have been a guard, like I see him, as opposed to a wing like Andy Katz sees him, again, potato, whatever, semantics, doesn't matter. He probably would have been pretty high on this list. But Arkansas's got some other really good guards. I mean, you got a 5-star, really highly sought after, McDonald's All-American and Boogie Flan. DJ Wagner, who I get it, he didn't meet expectations as a freshman at Kentucky, but you're talking about a returning guard in the SEC who was a double-digit scorer, averaged over 3 assists per game, but no Razorback love on the top 16 guards from Andy Katz. There's some familiar names there again, though. R.J. Davis at North Carolina, Mark Sears at Alabama, a sneaky player of the year candidate. He's at number 3. Caleb Love, former North Carolina guard, now Arizona guard, is on there. DeJuan Harris, number 6, who Arkansas will see in that scrimmage. That's going to be great for Boogie Flan. Just great for him. Facing one of the best returning guards in the country on both sides of the ball. He's one of the best distributors and one of the best on-ball defenders. That's going to be an awesome test for Boogie early. It's only going to make him better. Wade Taylor from Texas A&M. He's back. I know that's crazy, right? Number 8 on this list. Now, he's a big-time scorer, but he's very, very inefficient. So, again, I think about it, and if had Nelly Davis been categorized as a guard, I think he would have been above Wade Taylor on this. So probably in that top 8 range there. Let's see. Any more SEC guys on here? Yeah, a couple. 15 and 16. Number 15, Matthew Morrell. You guys remember him from Ole Miss. And then Zakai Ziegler at number 16. So pretty point guard heavy on this list. And so from that standpoint, I think it makes sense there. Point guards combos is what you're seeing a lot of. But no Razorbacks there. How about that? That's kind of crazy. I'm going to be really interested to see if they continue to do this. Like, they've done some position stuff. We're going to talk about maybe the fan base angle of this in just a second. But I hope they come out with, projecting their most improved players or their breakout candidates. Because I think if they do that, that's where you'll really start to see some of the Razorbacks pop up there a little bit more frequently, right? Trevin Brazile could fit the mold there as a breakout candidate, or maybe most improved. Adu Thiero. I mean, a lot of people were saying, hey, this guy could be a first-round draft pick. Well, he only averaged 7 and 5 at Kentucky last year, so he could be that. DJ Wagner could fall into that mix. Maybe they'll start putting out lists of freshmen to keep an eye on, impact freshmen. And I've seen some of those who popped around earlier in the summer, and all 3 of Arkansas's guys were on there, and Boogie Flan and Carter Knox and Billy Richmond. But I think that, from a national standpoint, the closer we get to the year, the more people are going to be talking about Boogie and Carter in particular. Maybe more so Boogie. I'm a big Carter Knox fan. Everybody, I think, who has been listening to me since he became a Razorback knows that for sure. But I think maybe, just maybe, once they get into the weeds a little bit, we'll start to see the Razorbacks pop up there a little bit more. What about coaches? Like, what if they put out a top 16 coaches in the country? Would John Calipari still be on that list? He's got to, right? Whether people believe that or not. I mean, he's an acting Hall of Famer, so you would certainly think so. But I wonder where he really falls in the eyes of some of these national media members. Maybe if it's just national ranking of the top coaches, or even SEC. Right. It's hard not to wonder about that, because I think we all have a very favorable opinion of John Calipari, because he's ours now, right, with the Razorbacks. But this time last year, we were probably talking about how the game had passed him by, and maybe he was washed or whatever, or he's not hip to modern basketball, or he's relying too much on the youngsters, and he's changing all those things now. I wonder if people are paying attention to it. And again, what really matters about all this is what comes of it after the fact, the postseason list. That's where you want to be, a first or second team All-American instead of an honorable mention, or you want to be on the list of the top guards or big men in the country, because you just proved it, as opposed to what people expect out of you a little bit there. So fun stuff to look at nonetheless. All right, everybody, I want to talk to you real quick about our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. We have something a little bit different for you, though, now through September 22nd, and that's coming up quick here. We got about a week. All FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. That's important. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com. All right, everybody, back here for the final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the Pod at the Palace edition, and we talked about the it's list season, so we've been pointing it out for the Razorback players and the team too. Like, I mean, if you go look at preseason power rankings and top 25s and bracketology, Arkansas is included in all those. They've been hovering around that 5 seed range. In most people's top 20, haven't seen a ton of top 10s, but some are floating around out there. So people know who the Razorbacks are, but do they know about the Razorback fan base? Some really interesting stuff. I'm kind of surprised I didn't find this out until last night when I was doing a little bit of research. But they've been coming out the same place, NCAA March Madness and Andy Katz, with their favorite college towns, the best venues, the fan bases, the student sections. Interesting to say the least. Let's talk about it a little bit. First of all, Andy Katz had his top 10 arenas. And we're just talking arenas in general, I think, not necessarily atmospheres or, crowds or the loudest or whatever, just arenas in general. Would you have Bud Walton on there? He does, thankfully. He's got him at number 5. Allen Fieldhouse, Kansas is number 1. Cameron Indoor Stadium, Duke is number 2. Mackey Arena, Purdue is number 3. Pauley Pavilion, UCLA is number 4. And then Arkansas at 5. I don't know. I mean, an argument could probably be made for Arkansas to be a little bit higher there, but top 5 in the country, you can't complain about that, right? Hilton Coliseum at Iowa State was 6. The Palestra at Penn, you guys know about the Palestra, is number 7. Breslin Center, Michigan State, 8. The McKell Center, Arizona, 9. And then the Pit at New Mexico, which is really, really cool, is number 10. But as I take a look at this, top 10 arenas, yep, Arkansas is the only one in the SEC that made the list. So you got to feel pretty good about that, right? I know I feel good about it. Bud Walton Arena, they don't call it the Basketball Palace of Mid-America for no reason. All right. So I made you happy. Now I'm going to make you mad. He also has his top 10 student sections listed. We're talking Andy Katz here. And nope, Arkansas ain't on it. Whew. Duke, Purdue, Kansas, Michigan State, Gonzaga, UConn, Auburn, San Diego State, Rutgers, and Providence. So a no-go for the Razorback student section. And, it's not even fair for me to weigh in on that, because if I sit there at press row, I'm literally in the student section and right by the pep band. So I feel like they, more often than not, especially for basketball games, they show up, they show out, they're loud. You got the themes, you got Sharkansas, they're engaged. I wonder how much this is impacted by the location of the student section on the floor. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of that weird caddy cornered, across from the benches. If it was betterly placed, I think that this would be on the list for the Arkansas student section. I really do. But as far as Andy Katz is concerned, didn't make it on the top 10 there. So that's the student sections. How about college towns, top 10 college towns? And obviously he's talking college basketball, but anytime you see these lists come out, it's, Fayetteville, Arkansas, the best in the SEC. Oh, it's top 5 college town in America. I was really surprised to not see Fayetteville, Arkansas on this particular list. You got a few SEC schools in here. Madison, Wisconsin, number 1. Austin, Texas, number 2. Boulder, Colorado, number 3. And listen, I've been to Boulder and it's cool, but this is the prime effect if I've ever seen it. I would take Fayetteville as a college basketball town or a college athletics town over Boulder, Colorado, 10 times out of 10. Chapel Hill, North Carolina, number 4. Tuscaloosa, number 5. Lawrence, Kansas, 6. Gainesville, Florida, 7. Athens, Georgia, 8. Ann Arbor, Michigan, 9. And UCLA, Westwood, California, 10. That's crazy to me that any LA school would be included on this, because the people don't go to games and it's not a college town at all. You got the Lakers, the Clippers, you've got all of the professional teams, Hollywood, all the glitz and glamour. Nobody cares about college athletics in Westwood, California, or the LA in general. So I don't know how that, if you didn't want to include Fayetteville on there, fine. But you could have done better than that for number 10. That's crazy talk to me. I can't believe it. I think we had one more here. Let me see if I can find it. There was a fan base one somewhere. Now that's student section. That's rivalries. We'll talk about that in just one second. Here we go. Yeah, the top 10 fan bases. Okay, Andy Katz, you redeemed yourself here. with Razorback fan because they'll get you on Twitter now. You better watch out. Number 9, though, for Arkansas in terms of fan bases. I don't know. Again, like I'm a little bit biased because I'm around you guys all the time. I think you're crazy. I think you're nuts. I'd have you higher than number 9 for sure. Kentucky and BBN at number 1. That's going to tick some people off, but I get it. UConn number 2. I don't know. Maybe Kansas 3, fair enough. Duke 4, okay. Purdue 5, that's an awesome home atmosphere. Illinois 6, North Carolina 7, Indiana 8. I mean, so you got some blue bloods mixed in there. Arkansas 9, and then Iowa State, which I think is underrated, is number 10 there. So at least Arkansas, if you're not going to include the student section, but you include the fan base overall, the student section is part of the fan base. They got you in the top 10. All right, we'll let you get by with that. The top 10 rivalries, final one here from Andy Katz. I wonder how quickly this might change because nothing on here for Arkansas. Number 1, Duke UNC. Yeah, duh. Number 2, Kentucky Louisville. Okay. 3, Indiana versus Purdue. Sure. Xavier Cincinnati. I know that's a big one. UCLA USC. Does anybody really care over there at number 5? BYU, Utah, yeah, that's a big one. Illinois and Missouri. I lived in Missouri for a long time. They take that very seriously. Gonzaga, St. Mary's, I could definitely see that. College basketball. New Mexico State. All right. Penn and Princeton there. Whatever. How quickly is Arkansas and Kentucky going to be getting close to the top of that list? I think it's going to take that February 1st game in Lexington to get a little bit weird, and you know that it's going to. But if Cal's going to be at Arkansas for 5+ years, that thing is going to be absolutely wild. It's a travesty that Arkansas and Kentucky are not playing 2 times during this college basketball season. Maybe they'll meet in Nashville again for the SEC tournament. But you don't want to put them in the top 10 rivalries right now. Okay, fair enough, because we haven't had a game between Arkansas and Kentucky in these current circumstances, even though I think they're the 2 best programs in the SEC that have a lot of history with one another. I bet that it's going to be on there really, really quick. So that'll do it, folks. A fun episode today. Like I said, it's list season, it's talking season, but we're just a little bit away here from starting to get some of those nuggets coming in from practice. And before you know it, we'll be playing these exhibitions against Kansas and TCU and then really be rolling. So looking forward to it, but appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, this has been Curtis Wilkerson with the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, the Pod at the Palace edition, and we will see you guys next time. Everybody have a good one.